Today, this is going to be some shortcrust pastry, but not just any shortcrust pastry. Try saying that when you're really tired. Shortcrust pastry, but not any shortcrust pastry. See, I can't say it. It's gluten free because we all know by now, hopefully. Well, if you don't, I was about to tell you I can't eat gluten. So everything I do for me has to be gluten free. If I'm doing demos or baking for anybody else, then you know you'll get standard stuff if you want it, if that's your thing. But for me, I always have to have gluten free. So I thought this was going to be interesting because I'm actually going to be making some sausage rolls later, which requires some shortcrust pastry. Shortcrust pastry. I will say it one day. So tired. The recipe that comes with the Thermomix is just standard shortcrust pastry. I'll just say pastry. It's far easier. So yes, it just comes with a standard pastry recipe and mix. So it's actually quite good for a bit of a demo to show how quick it is to make pastry, and actually how easy it is to adapt a recipe that's already on Thermomix into your own recipe. So what I've actually done is I have Googled gluten-free short crust pastry and found that virtually every recipe is about the same when it comes to it. It replaces normal standard plain flour with gluten-free, but it also adds an egg as well, so it's possibly just something to do chemically or just binding it or just making it that it doesn't completely fall apart and crumble, because obviously the gluten-free plain flour does react differently to standard plain flour. So all I'm going to do is follow the recipe on here, but also combine it with the recipe here. So the quantity is going to be slightly different because the one on the Thermomix asks for 220 of flour and then 170 of butter, which is quite a high percentage, whereas the recipes I've found it actually tends to be about half and half. So yeah, so 225 of the flour and just 110 of the butter. I didn't realise that this morning because I actually have frozen this butter. That is a Thermomix tip, was to freeze the butter. So measure it, weigh it out first, dice it up and then freeze it before you have it ready for the recipe. So I've got a little bit more than I actually need, but hey, you can put it back in the freezer, that's not a problem. So as it says to put in my flour, it tells me that it wants 220, but actually I am only going to put in, well in fact it says here 225 anyway, so it's not going to tell me off for not putting in the amount it is asking. I choose how much, I just let it tell me how much I'm putting in those scales. So those scales are built in. It's always set to 0 when you start, and then in between each ingredient it resets itself to 0 as well. So I can put in as much or as little as I want to adapt my recipe accordingly. So I'm going to add 225 of plain flour, just slightly over, not an issue. Next it tells me to put in the butter. So for this recipe here it's 110 grams, so it's reset it to 0, and whilst it might say 170, like I say, it's not going to tell me off if I don't put 170 in. So I'm going to put in 110. This is pre-chopped into cubes, and hopefully, if you know about pastry, the reason why is the colder the butter, the better it is for the shortness of the pastry. 117 there, that's absolutely fine. Okay, next, pinch of salt. Just wipe my hands very quickly because I've been handling the butter, and I did wash my hands before I started the recipe, don't panic. So just a couple of those. Again, if you haven't watched any of the demos before, when it's time for the Thermomix to do its stuff, you need to put the lid on. There is an indicator there. There's see, I'm getting tired, I can't think of the word. There's something there anyway, so it tells you. If you've not got the lid on, the machine won't work. It won't throw everything everywhere. I say that every time. You must be getting bored with it if you've seen the other videos. So it has got a hole in the middle. So it will tell you whether you need to put the measuring cup in the hole or not. And so on this one, it does say insert measuring cup. So actually before I do that, so obviously that is your standard flour and butter combo. Everything goes in there. Shouldn't really be wearing black when I'm messing about with flour. I click next. It isn't doing any, obviously, cooking, it's just mixing it. So it's going to tell me for 1 second. All I need to do is turn that speed selector and it will do that. And then it says, turn it 2 more times. Okay. So what I'm now going to do, hopefully, it will release the lid because I want to see what's inside it. So what I'm hoping for is, that literally took 3 seconds and I've got breadcrumbs. Whoa, I did have thrown them on the side. So yes, we have got breadcrumbs. I used to love making pastry, but I can't make it. My nan used to make the best pastry in the world. I'm too heavy-handed, too hot-handed. I could never get it into breadcrumbs that easily. So no effort at all. And I've now got breadcrumb pastry. Now, part of this recipe would then be to normally add cold water before you then go on to the next bit. Because I'm doing the gluten-free, it actually says an egg and then mix with a teaspoon of water. I'm going to throw that in there. And funnily enough, it will be about the same amount of liquid by the sounds of it. My teaspoon's a bit small, so I'm just going to put 2 teaspoons in for now. And then if I need to do any more, so that's actually come up to 60 grams, and it was asking me for 80 grams of cold water, but I'm following the gluten-free recipe. So that's the ingredients that it's told me to put in. I'm looking for the lid, it's right in front of me. Insert measuring cup into mixing bowl lid, then 15 seconds this is going to take. Again, no cooking, it's just going to tell me to turn the speed selector to number 6, which I'm going to do. So, a bit noisy, so I don't want to talk, but you could hear the changing of the blade as it was actually creating that dough. So, yes, okay, I heard it the first time. It has made dough without any effort, and that, I can feel that already. I'm going to put all my hands in because the blade's there, but I can feel that already. It's not too sticky, it's not too dry. And there's loads more in there, by the way. That's not all it's made. That appears to have made the perfect gluten-free dough for shortcrust pastry. I thought, well, the kids were going to start running in then. So I am going to do what it says next, which is wrap it in cling film and chill in the fridge for 30 minutes before I make my sausage rolls. And then I'll let you know via the means of Facebook. So I'll put the video up on Facebook. I'm going to make the sausage rolls with that pastry, and then I'll let you know how that pastry turns out and how successful it was, because that's the first time that I'm trying it this way. Fingers crossed we'll get lovely gluten-free short crust pastry. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to bed in a minute. Need a glass of wine. Bye!